All right, let's jump right into it. Racket number
Let's do
one.
it.
For the very first time, Nicole,
Yep.
Opendoor is selling homes at a loss. Mike Del Prete wrote the article on Inman. We'll link it up as we always do in our show notes. After outpacing the competition, basically destroying the competition, Opendoor has put all of the competition in the rearview mirror. Market conditions has finally caught up with the iBuyer, forcing it to prove that its model still works even in a downturn. Obviously, we are facing a new market right now. Opendoor's buy to sell premium. The difference between the purchase and the resale price of its homes has reached a record negative low. Why does this matter? For the first time in its existence, Opendoor is entering territory where in aggregate it is selling homes for less than their purchase price. Let's look at the chart. If Bobby could throw that up. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it. If you are listening, this shows that we are now, for the first time since January 2019, not we, but Opendoor
Yep.
is selling these homes at a loss. They were making about 4%, Nicole, in 2019 and 2020. And they got up over 8% in 2021, if I'm reading this correctly, maybe even as close to 10% in 2021. And then here in the beginning of 22, so January 22, they hit over 10%, and now they are in the negatives. So look at how quickly this market has flipped on Opendoor. Nicole, are you surprised that as we enter the downturn that they're selling homes for a loss? And do you think if the market continues to go down that by the end of this shift, Opendoor gets back on the positive, meaning they're going to buy deals right now and they're going to be able to make money on those later on? So are you surprised right now? And what do you see for the future of Opendoor?
It's interesting because I am a little surprised that they're selling for less than what they bought it for. But again, remind me, because I know Zillow was like overpaying for these properties too. Was Opendoor doing the same thing at sort of the peak?
We had tons of evidence. We covered it on this show in
Yeah,
the
you had a
past.
someone in your family
There
in
was there was a
Arizona,
family there was a
Texas.
it was Texas. There was a family member who had 3 properties. They were renting these properties out through Airbnb, and they got offers from Zillow that were mind-boggling. I
Crazy
had
numbers.
I
Yeah.
mean, we spoke to agents in Texas. I did some data and some homework, and everything kept turning up that, wow, you're getting 30% over market value. Take Zillow's offer and run with it. And that's exactly what they did. We also had data from other agents sending stuff into us saying, hey, here's what's happening in my market. Zillow's
Right.
overpaying. Why are they doing this? It was very confusing. Obviously, everything hit the fan. They ended their iBuying. I don't have that type of data
Yeah.
that Opendoor is just outright overpaying for properties. What I
Because
will tell
it's
you
yeah.
is they've got this, and if you're watching on YouTube, you see it. I'm doing air quotes right now. They
Mhm.
have this sophisticated algorithm, does Opendoor. And oh, by the way, I'm certain that they have a gatekeeper to the algorithm, somebody double checking the number who's never been a real estate investor in their lives.
Yeah.
Somebody out of one of our great universities here in America with a 4-year degree in using a calculator, and they're checking the Opendoor algorithm. Okay, so they haven't been in
Uh,
real estate. They haven't been in these local markets. They're not an investor. They've never actually gone through the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. They don't know what the heck they don't know, right? And these markets do turn on a dime in certain markets.
certain markets, yeah.
And so that's what Opendoor is experiencing right now, that there's things that their algorithm can't see. Nicole, you're a savvy real estate investor. You've done multiple flips and you've done multiple renovations. I mean, you're looking at deals every single week. When you go into a house online on the MLS, how often do you say, okay, I think that this is worth X, and if we put Y into it, we can get this return. And then you get into the property and you're like, oh boy, we're dealing with a whole new can of worms when you're physically in there. How often does that happen out of 10 homes? Is it 5? Is it less than 5? Is it more than 5?
It's probably 9.
It's 9 times out of 10. Once you
I
physically get in there, it's a different story.
100%. I mean, because, like windows, you think windows are okay and you don't know until you're actually physically in it. Or you think that there's hardwood floors maybe throughout that could save you a bunch and it's not. So you have to replace flooring. Or, I mean, there's so many unexpected layouts. Maybe the layouts aren't desirable in this market. So I would say probably 9 times out of 10. It's definitely very different than what you're seeing. I mean, maybe I could say 8, but a majority of the time once you get into that house, it's a completely different animal once you're in there, for
E-
sure.
Every market's different. In the Northeast, people tend to like real hardwood flooring in their homes. That
True?
may be different in the Southeast, where
Yes.
you want tile or
Yeah.
some type of
Well, we have
engineered wood.
basements here, like Texas, they have no basements. Here people like basements, they like them finished. Um, Again, we're also in this weird market too where, we don't necessarily need central air like other parts of the country, but people prefer it. So,
Of
you
course.
know, if there isn't central air, you need to add it. And then it's where can you add it? And or can you run it through the basement? And then, if it's a 2-story, you have to run through the basement and the attic so that you're not taking up closet space. So,
Let, just sticking with the example of a hardwood, because you brought it up. Sometimes you're like, okay, those homes typically in that neighborhood underneath the carpet, they'll have hardwood. You get there, they didn't have hardwood, they've got subflooring. If you were to say, okay, the house has hardwood and one house doesn't, it's got just carpet or maybe some type of luxury vinyl or whatever, is there a big difference in resale value? Is there a significant difference in resale value between hardwood throughout the floor, throughout the layout,
mhm.
versus not hardwood in the markets that you serve?
Are we talking about bedrooms or are you talking about living spaces?
Like definitely living spaces, but
Yeah.
let's go living spaces.
Okay, so if there's carpet in living spaces, it's not even a matter of it of there being an increase in price. It's a matter of the buyer not even wanting to buy it potentially too. So your buyer
Okay.
pool like shrinks tremendously. I mean, who wants carpet in their dining room or, especially if it's throughout in their living room, especially again in our area, we have fireplaces. So, it just a lot of red flags start coming up. And then, yeah, the value is huge because if there is carpet, then they're not only potentially not wanting it, but then they're immediately in their minds thinking that this is going to cost them at least between $10,000 and $20,000 to then replace all the carpet too. So they're immediately walking in deducting from that price.
So if Opendoor's algorithm is not at this point, and maybe it does in the future, I don't know
Yeah.
algorithms. I don't have any algorithms as a BFF where I can ask them this question, but maybe the algorithm gets
Like
better. And
BFF, like best friend
yeah, like
forever?
I don't have any
Hmm.
algos. Like Zuckerberg's not in my back
Yeah.
pocket. I don't know
Yeah.
how good these algos are going to get in the future. I'm assuming based off of really smart people saying they're going to get better and better and better that they are. So let's just assume that that's the case. And maybe in the future they'll be able to predict this. But right now, I don't believe that the algorithm and the people that are checking the algorithm at Opendoor know enough about what all the nuances that you just laid out. And that's why real estate has been a really, really difficult industry for prop tech to take over. I spoke to Spencer Raskoff, former CEO of Zillow, about this at great detail and great length in the past. Where, hey, do you believe prop tech has really just taken over and solved every issue in real estate? Not even close, he
Yeah.
says. And this is one of those examples that if you know your market, and in the comments, like what's the like for that nuance that Nicole just talked about, what's the flooring of choice and how big of a difference or how long will it take to sell the house if you don't have the flooring of choice? And so Opendoor right now, if they're sitting on a house that's got carpet, or if it's tile in a market that really wants wood flooring or whatever, to your point, you might just not have any buyers that want it because they don't want to do the renovation necessary to bring the house up to their standard, because right now there's less buyer competition. And if that's the
Right.
case, Opendoor's on a timeline. They got to move these properties. That's where you start to see these reductions. Let's move the inventory so that we can continue to go out there and get more inventory. I think that's what we're forgetting here about the model is they don't want to just sit on inventory. They want to
Yeah.
churn it. They want to move it so they can go make more offers to other people. If they're not able to make the offers, the offering of we'll buy your house for cash, make it easy, they're not getting a bigger customer base. They're not collecting data. They're not getting more referrals. They're not getting more people comfortable with this idea of selling direct to Opendoor. Remember, everybody who invested in Opendoor, and I'll remind you, their stock is down 80% in the past year. In the past 12 months, their stock's down 80%. All of you investors, you want to be investors on TikTok who have added me and said, Opendoor, they're a market maker. They're making a market. They're creating one out of thin air, and it will be the new real estate market in which everybody operates in. You've all lost 80% of your money, if not more. I hope you get it back. I'm not rooting against you personally, but I laughed when I saw those comments. I laugh when I think back on them. And I laugh when I think about the future and the nuances of real estate. We all know in 5 years from today, iBuying will not meet Brad Inman's previous prediction of 50% of the market.
That was
That's
like almost a year and a half ago too, wasn't
that's
it?
that's ludicrous. That was a
Yeah.
year and a half ago. That will likely never happen in our careers. If you're an
Right.
agent listening and you agree with that, hit the thumbs up on the YouTube. Most people, and as we're getting into this trickier market, most people still today, 92+% want to use an agent to get the most money they possibly can for their house. And as there are less buyers in the market, that becomes more important than ever.
Than ever.
When I look at Opendoor's future, though, I do think they're probably making a strategic move here. I'm going to give them credit on this. I think they're making a strategic move to be able to capitalize on deals this winter. And at the end of
So
this,
freeing up some cash, they're trying to free up some cash so they can
yeah,
reinvest.
I think they say, okay, well, if we're going to take X loss now, maybe we make that up because we're buying the right deals over the winter. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we get into our last segment on the pod, but I maybe their future pacing and making a strategic decision. Listen, they've got a better calculator than I do, and they've got more degrees to punch those numbers than I'll ever have. So I'm
Mhm.
going to give them the benefit of the doubt there, and that might be the move that they're making. But ultimately, I think it's a racket to believe that this was ever going to be an easy way to create a new real estate market. The market has ebbs and flows. Opendoor is feeling it right now. Hey guys, appreciate you checking out this episode of The Real Word. If you want the full episode, go over to the Broke Agent YouTube. That's where we're hosting the full podcast. If you want to continue to see the segments broken out and the short clips, stay right here on The Real Word YouTube.